Right, well, we're into the new section now of SA Boxing Talk, which is the podcast section. And before I get started with the podcast and who's on the show today, I just wanted to give a big thanks to Universal Paints Blackheath, the Infeld Twins for always being on board, and the new people, the Gold's Gym here, South Africa, the only Gold's Gym in South Africa. So big thanks for them for hosting this podcast. But without further ado, let's get to our guest today, Ryno Liebenberg. Welcome to, the first episode of the podcast. How's everything going with you?
Yeah, normal working days. I'm a working man now, so I just work.
Yeah.
That's it. Pretty simple.
Well, it's the start of your retirement. I mean, we would have seen it coming, but it's official now that you're retired, right?
Yeah, so I came at the right time. I made the right decisions. I always had a plan out for me in my boxing career, and I basically did what I wanted to do.
Any sort of regrets that you're having?
Maybe I should have stuck to super middleweight, if I can call it a regret. I don't think it's a regret, it's just something that would have been better for my career down the line, but I think it is what it is.
Yeah, sort of the ebbs and flows of a career, different stages and whatnot. So let's talk about life before boxing. What was life like before you became this? Because boxing is a big part of your life, but what happened before boxing?
So, I finished school. So I boxed in school, standard 6, 7 and 8. I didn't fight. I went to SAS twice. Some of my teammates in the team back then, we fought together, Grand Fury, Johnny Koon, I can't remember, Anzi Kaur, some of them, Quentin Erasmus, they all turned pro. So I was in that era. And then I fell off my bike, broke both my arms, finished school, went on to go and study. That's why I met my wife at college. And then I did bodybuilding. I enjoyed the gymming. After I fell off my bike and I couldn't fight, or the doctor said I couldn't fight, I went into weight training and I got quite good at it, and I did it well and I enjoyed it. But after a while, if you don't compete, it gets boring. So you have to compete against yourself, and it's the same thing, in and out and in and out and in and out. Then the boxing came out.
So I mean, boxing is obviously a competitive sport, something that you want to knock someone's head off. Let's talk about amateur boxing. Even before professional boxing, what was your amateur career like? Did you have any rivalries?
No, not really. I had a very good amateur career. I went to SAS 1, 2, 3 times. I got disqualified in the finals. So I had a boxing career in my early days. I fought 39 kgs, 42 kgs, 45 kgs. So I was light. And then I stopped boxing after my accident for basically 9 years. Then I fought 91 kgs.
Oh wow.
So because I was dead from the juice and bodybuilding. And I went to SAS mostly, except for my first year when I couldn't go. All the other years I did. I competed in the national trials. I went to national trials with Tommy. And we both got draws there in Bloemfontein. We had a duck roll afterwards. And then they turned pro, and I went back into bodybuilding because of all the bullshit in boxing.
And then when you eventually decided to go pro, your first fight cost you, and do it as a third round TKO. What do you remember from that day?
The thing I remember the most was before the fight started, I stood under those lights and it was so hot, it was so warm. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to pass out before this even starts. I just rubbed me on the chest and said, listen, everybody, just do what you want to do. And boxing it's nerves and stuff. And as soon as the first jab lands, it's boxing, you do what you have to do. And Costa was my first fight, knocked him out. It was still on the undercard of Mikey Shields and the name of Ritzer. I'll never forget it. So it was a big event, lots of people, gangsters. It was more.
So the first 4 shows that you did as a professional, they were all small shows, but you continued to knock people out. And then you came into Sepang Mohale, which is a fight that you always talk about. I'm sure you will tell everyone here and recall what happened that day.
Look, I knocked out a guy called Ryno Liebenberg in the first round. I hit him so hard he got convulsions in the ring, first round. Then I fought another guy, Basil Mtueko, knocked him out, first round. Then I fought Costa again, knocked him out, third round. And then one day we were training in the gym, Gert came up to me and says, listen here, we've got a duck roll. I'm like, okay. He says, we're going to fight a real boxer now, a champion. It's a Pongmola. I'm like, okay. And that's it. And he said, listen, this I can eat. I'm like, okay. what does he say?
Yeah.
You want to fight him? I'm like, I'll fight, you decide, I'll fight you. We trained hard, we trained exceptionally hard for that fight. And at the end, hiccups, I got a cut. I sparred Isaac Chalenga and Khotso Matau for that fight. Khotso hit me with the left and cut my eye 2 weeks before the fight. I'll never forget it. And we did light sparring up until the fight, and then big show, first fight at Empress Palace. I wasn't bummed for that guy. I just wanted to fight. Went to weigh-in. He didn't make weight. He weighed 84 kgs at the weigh-in. I weighed 79. I'm like, okay, what now? Now they're gonna make him pull weight. Then he went to the car and go and sleep in the car. And then he came back and I left and Gert phoned me up. He said, I didn't make weight, but they're giving us some of this purse money, so we're gonna fight him. I'm like, okay, see you tomorrow. Then the fight came. Round 1. This is now the first fight I'm in against a real fighter. And round 1 is like this, so he's hitting me. And the next moment he hit 1, 2, left 2. And I'll never forget it. It felt like somebody shot me with electricity. It's like, and my left knee went, and I fell on my face, boom, on the ground. And I remember 4, 5, and I jumped up. And I was still like this, going, okay, what's going on? 6, 7, and I called myself, okay, and I felt, okay, 8. Okay, cool. This is going to be a fight.
Yeah.
Round 2, we boxed. I've caught him with some big punches as well. And I hit him on the half, on the chin, on the shoulder, and he went down. I think his knee buckled because he had a knee injury or something. So his knee, something happened there. And he fell and they counted him. I'm like, okay, thank you. They counted me, so it's even rounds. You know, you can. And round 3 came. We were boxing in round 3. He hit me with an uppercut. He hit me so hard with that uppercut, I woke up at the end of round 5. So I can't remember what happened in round 3, round 4 and round 5. I watched it on the TV, but I can't remember. I just remember Keith Russ throwing water on my head and Gert saying, "Then he must roll this." Okay, I'm still here, I'm not dead. Okay, I go to the roller. And then I thought in my head, I said, just run, Ryno. This I knocked Johnny Miller out in 3 rounds. Just run and lose on points. And I ran.
Yeah.
So that was the end of round 5. And I ran round 6 and I ran. And he started playing games and boom, banged him with a right hand. Square on the chin, done, out. They counted him out. The happiest moment of my life. To this day, the single happiest moment of my life was when that ref said, done.
Did you ever feel that way again in your whole boxing career? The way you felt that day?
Yes, no, not like that.
Okay.
No. So, yes, you get happy and you win and it's unbelievable, but never has anything come close to that. No.
And if you had fought him, when you had more experience, do you think that would have been much easier?
I fought him anywhere from 15 fights up. I would have destroyed him. You know, after that he lost, I think, 3 fights. He never was the same fighter again after that. And I'm not saying it was that, but it just. And then he fought Johnny Miller again at light heavy, and Johnny broke him.
Okay.
So, you know, I fought Johnny twice before Johnny fought him, and we all know what happened. So, no, and I fought him anything after even 10 fights. I don't think we were on the same level.
Right. And I don't know which point this fell, but when were you given the name The Lion?
So when I was young, like in the beginning of my boxing career, I had long, middle pikey, long blonde hair. So
I can't imagine.
So that's how I lived. And we were in the black community. They say lion, it's called Tau.
Okay.
That's in the black community. And my father had that nickname in the gym. And out of nowhere, the black oaks in the gym started calling me Tau because I had this white hair. When I fight, you just see hair everywhere. And that's where the lion thing came in, and I chose it and it stuck.
Alright, and then moving on from there was a short period where you joined Colin Nathan not too long after the Spangmole fight.
Yes.
How did that all come about, and why did you make that decision?
So, no, it wasn't a decision that I made lightly. Unfortunately, Gert Stradon's life took a turn for the worse at that time. He had problems in his marriage, I got divorced, the gym fell apart somewhat. And in my boxing career, our paths just wasn't on the same anymore. He didn't come to gym. There was lots of stories from both of us, and it just didn't work. There wasn't a way forward from where he was in his life. So I made the decision to go and join Colin.
And at that point, Colin was aligned with the Golden Gloves promotions, and that's where you sort of went in that direction. You started fighting at Empress Palace, becoming a household name, and then your rivalry with Johnny Muller started. Talk about both fights. I mean,
so
that's
my
big.
rivalry first started with Harold Fulbraster.
Okay.
So I fought a guy called David Bazajani Vule from Harold's gym. It was an 8 rounder, then it was a 6 rounder, then it was a light heavy, then it was a super middle. It was all this Democard show. So I had one fight with Colin Hayden in Makapan Stad, somewhere there behind Pretoria, at super middleweight, and I fought 8 rounds. I laboured to an 8-round decision just because a new trainer, new weight, unsurety, you don't know what to do. Then David came, the guy that went all the rounds with Untitled Chapter, a guy that's been in title fights, a step up for me. And I fought David. There was a lot of controversy in the fight because we signed a 6-rounder, they signed, but I beat him.
Yeah.
Then I fought the name of Ritzo, the guy that I had my pro debut on, also under Harold's gym, staying with Johnny Miller, also at super middle. This was a hard fight, and I never stopped coming forward, but I beat him convincingly. It was a close fight, but I did win quite easy, and I won. So then I beat him. So there was an 8-rounder. So then the only guy left was Johnny Miller. Then they offered me the Johnny Miller fight, my first title fight at light heavy. And me and Colin said, listen, this is it. This is it. When you start boxing, you want to win a fight. Then you want to win a fight by knockout. And then you want to win a title. You want a belt or something to show your kids, not just pictures.
Yeah.
Then I signed the fight with Johnny Miller.
And well, let's go from there. Johnny Muller, big name at the time. I remember the build-up on Super Sports as well. It was a big deal. Two guys that were sort of, the winner would go on, the loser would go down. How did you assess? Well, let's start with fight number 1.
So Johnny was a big fight for me. He was in the ranks for a few years longer than me. He had a proper amateur career. He was an SA titleist already. He's been in there. So I just said, listen, I knocked out Tabon, you lost to Tabon. I'm going to break. Camp and everything went well, and at the press conference the Tuesday, I got ill, but like proper ill. So I think it was a Wednesday. I had the flu or griep.
Yeah.
But I had fever and I was coughing up phlegm and I felt like shit, and at the weigh-in I was on fire. And we didn't know what to do because now I'm sick. It's my first title fight. I put in so much. My work gave me off 6 weeks off work just to train for this fight. Everything was perfect, and then I got sick. So we kept quiet, and I remember when me and Neil, so my brother-in-law Neil is my partner in boxing, he used to take me to Empress Palace. Picks me up at the house, we plug the car for his BMW X5 full of stickers. Then we drive there, it's small, so we listen to music and we chat. That day, we just sat there. My head was on fire because I had fever. I had ice packs on my head. Neil's there, all teary-eyed, but it was mild. It was mild. So we walked in there, and I sat there in that dressing room, and we didn't know what to do. And I'll never forget it. My father walked in and he said, Ryno, listen here. Are you going to fight or are you going to not fight? I'm going to fight. No more crying, no more moaning, no more being ill. You're going to fight. I said, sweet, okay, let's go. Got into the fight, round 1. Round 2, Johnny clipped me with the leg sweep where I felt. But it didn't buckle me. And as I stepped back, I stepped on the advertising and I slipped and I fell. And they counted me. I went to the corner, I was like, mauled because they counted me, but it happened. And then I knocked it down round 5, round 6. Round 7, and eventually I knocked him out in round 8.
But it was always a war between you two. No matter what, there was so many moments that where he hit you hard, you hit him hard.
Johnny's a fighter. He catches you sleeping. So it wasn't a hard fight. I just boxed and Johnny tried to roll and it didn't work for him. So that was a good fight. I enjoyed it. It was a proper fight.
And the reason why I said it was a rivalry is because you guys got into a second fight again. And how did you receive the news? Did you want a second fight against Johnny?
Well, Johnny went on to win a few more fights after I had the fight with him, and I went on and won 3 or 4 more fights, and then our paths crossed again, and it was the same story. This time, the week before the fight, I had hurt my back. Now I'm walking crippled, hanging I'm like, fuck, Johnny again. But I beat him and I beat him again convincingly. I busted his eye open. Around 11 they wanted to stop that fight. And I'll never forget it. Johnny, I'll never forget it. He said, choose that ref. Listen here, it's one round, don't stop it, it's one round. And the ref didn't, we went on 12 rounds. No, people threw money in the ring after that.
Oh, okay.
So apparently it's something that they did in the old days. I never saw it before, but they stood on the side of there was no boxing guys, it was proper boxing. They came up to the ring and they threw money in that ring. So I still have some red points.
Oh, so you did pick up the money?
Oh, exactly.
Okay. Well then, after Johnny, right, so that was sort of the fight that paved your way to fighting international opponents. So you went on, you fought Ramirez from Argentina, Alotti from Ghana, Joey Vegas, which was a big fight as well.
And all of them I knocked out in one round.
And that's crazy. And then Khrushchev was one that you went the distance with. He was a tougher guy.
Yeah, he shouldn't have gone the distance. That fight, I should have knocked Khrushchev out before 6 rounds. I caught him in round 4. So what happened in that fight, round 1, I didn't hit me, he knew the head, but he said he hit me and my eye burst open from one side to the next, one burst. And it was blood and it's running at my eye. And I went to the corner and I told Colin, listen, I can't fucking see, the blood's running over my eyeball, so it's red. Then Colin said, deal with it. You want me to stop the fight? I said, no, use the other arm. I'm like, okay. Yeah, it's small. And yeah, I caught him in round 4, I think I buckled him and I should have taken him out. But I was so unsure with his eye thing. And yeah, I won on points.
So that was it. So, I mean, he went on as well then to fight Tommy, and there was a whole bunch of more fights for him in South Africa. So, I mean, at the end, if you look at his career now, it probably didn't pan out the way he wanted it.
Look, he had a win against Zolt Erdog, which is probably his best win, undefeated world champion. But other than that,
yeah, I think as far as I checked, he was 20 and 13 now, like as of right now. So
he's fighting for fun.
Yeah, so he went probably traveling and so forth. Okay, so talking about internationals, then I'd say the best fighter on paper, well, not even on paper, that you fought was Elidia Alvarez. You fought him in Monte Carlo, Monaco. Your first loss as a professional. How did you take that?
Worst feeling ever. Fuck. I went there full of bit of water. They took me to Monte Carlo before the fight, and then when Aki fought, and then the second time I was on the bull, so I got used to it. I was full bit of water. I was ready for it. I did everything right, and then the fight came. Round 1, I won. I won round 1 in that fight, and from round 2, he schooled me. The levels was 10 levels apart. He schooled me he caught me, lured me in, hit me on the outside, inside. He just had an answer for everything that I did. And yeah, he took me apart. I think round 4 he hit me with an uppercut. And as he hit me, I felt more out of frustration than out of being hurt. And round 8, I think it was 7 or 8, he hit me with a 1-2 and my entire face burst open on this side. I got like 17 stitches and the doctor stopped the fight. There was nothing wrong, I could afford another 20 rounds, but my face could have.
Did you think he would go on and become a world champion beating the likes of Sergey Kovalev?
Yes, and John Pascal.
Okay.
We beat John Pascal as well, and Lucien Boutte, they knocked him out cold in round 4. Yeah, so I knew he was that good. You know, had I fighting 5 fights later, I think it would have been a much better fight. But also at super middle. But it doesn't matter. That loss, I remember sitting in that bus and I'm like, what did I do wrong? I couldn't get my head around what happened. You know, after that we still went on holiday, we went to Dubai. And then you're standing there, my face looks like this. And you're standing in the queue and then the small children, they go like this. When they see you, because my face I couldn't see for like 4 days. But I think that loss, as hard as it was, because it was a hard thing, a hard pill to swallow, made me a better fighter.
Well, I think what was also frustrating for you was the fact that you were the silver champion. Yes. Had you have beaten him, you would have probably got a world title shot
against Thomas Stevenson. Yes.
And how did all that play into your head when you realized it was just taken away from you in that instance?
No, it all comes together. It's just that loss. For me, the big thing, I couldn't get my head around what did I do wrong. Because I did everything that I tried to do and it worked for 15 fights. Why didn't it work now?
Yeah.
And then you learn, like, I mean, you need to adapt in the fight and you need to change your strategy and listen better. It's just everything. It was a fight.
Yeah, and from their point onwards, you were able to come back and reignite your Harold Fulbreck rivalry. Tommy Oosthuizen, you got on stage, you called him out.
So the other world title was vacant at that stage, and Rodney had a plan for Tommy to fight somebody else for it. And I found Rodney with myself. I said, listen, sir, I couldn't, sir, I would like to fight Tommy. He said, listen, the plan is I'm going to let Tommy fight another guy, maybe get you a warm-up fight, and then we fight. And I said, no, I'm ready to fight him now. No, I didn't fight now, I'll fight him. So, and they said, okay, if you really want to fight him, how do you want to do it? I said, I'll go into the ring and pull him out when he fights Grudge.
Yeah.
They said, okay. I got in there and I pulled him out and accepted him at all.
Did you think it was going to 100% happen after you went to the ring, or was there still like a doubt that Tommy might choose another fight?
No. Look, Tommy's he'll fight. He's a man of his word. When I called him out, he said, listen, let's roll, and he's not bound for football. So, yeah, we had a good fight, and he said, let's fight, and that's it.
I think when you got into the ring, you said that it had been over a year that you wanted the Tommy fights, and it just happened to be the right time for you.
Yes, look, if you fight, I just fought Tommy at the right time, wrong time. So yes, so Tommy Oosthuizen, you must fight Tommy Oosthuizen after he's had a fight, because when you fight him after he's had a fight, his life falls apart. But if you fight him before he's had a fight, he's on fire. So look, Tommy's viral. From all the guys that I fought, the most frustrating guy, the guy that's got the best boxing IQ in the, I wouldn't say the best fighter, I would say Ryno Liebenberg is probably the best. I don't know if he's the best. The last guy I fought was quite violent, but Tommy is in the top 3 of the best guys that I fought. And just his boxing IQ, how he sets you up, how he moves about, he frustrates you if you don't know what to do.
Do you think you fought the best version of him? Was that prime Tommy?
No. I don't think there is such a thing as a prime Tommy, because one Tommy beats Tabiso Tuna, the next Tommy doesn't. One Tommy destroys one guy in the States and then looks cock in the next fight. So I don't think it's on the night he was the better fighter and he beat me. Had it been another night, I might have won, but it wasn't. So is he done yet? I don't know, because he's that good, but yeah, I would say I fought the Tommy 90% of his capacity, not the full, because his life started falling apart by then. So you need to fight the guy when he's at his best to be able to say you fought him at his best. And he wasn't at his best. He was still exceptionally good, but not at his best.
I'll say this, right? So I think you've been robbed a lot when you went abroad. Obviously, you know that. But the Tommy split decision, I definitely had Tommy winning the fight. So were you happy that you got a split decision?
You know what? I'm not the judge. Lots of fighters take blame for what the judges do. It's not up to you.
Yeah.
You're not there, you don't talk to them. So how they see the fight and how they score the fight has got absolutely nothing to do. One guy saw Tommy as running away the entire night and he didn't score any points. So it was a split decision. Yes, if you ask boxing specialists and purists, they would disagree, but at the end of the day, it's not us who make the decisions, it's the judges, and they call it as they see it.
Okay, and then after Tommy, that whole international run that you had where you didn't box in South Africa, you fought Eric Scotland, who unfortunately isn't boxing anymore.
Who I believe I beat.
Let's go fight for fight. Let's break down fight.
Okay, Eric Scotland.
Sweden.
Went to Sweden, like a place, got into the fight. It was a fucking roll off now. He didn't go back out. We fought. He boxed. I brawled him. He got a cut. He bled so much that in the fight you can see the referee look at the promoter. And then the promoter says no, and then he says fight. And I'll never forget it. After that fight, I went for dope testing. They took him to the hospital. I've watched the fight a few times. If anything, they should have given me a draw. But the ref was terrible. He kept on holding and never had a warning, never had a... So in the fair world, I believe I won that fight. But I didn't. So I lost against Eric Scotland. Yeah, And it wasn't as bad this time because I thought I won. Alan the wheel went with 4 cuts. We had a good team, and everybody that I saw afterwards believed I won. So I took it for what it is. Then I fought in Ryno Liebenberg.
That's right. That's right.
Germany. So on that fight, so 2 weeks before that fight, I was sparring France, or whatever.
Yeah.
He hit me on the back, then I popped the rib on the front here. So popped rib means the rib pops out of your cavity here, your chest bone. It was the sorest thing I've ever had to endure in my life. I cried like a baby. I'm like, yeah, and I didn't want to fight. So I took 4 days, I told Colin, listen, I can't fight, I can barely fucking breathe. I'm not going to fight it. Colin took me to another doctor, and they did PRP treatment, and I went for physio, and this thing, I couldn't touch it. When you put it on your t-shirt, it's like, you pull it like this. But I decided, listen, I'm going to fight with this thing, and let's go for it. I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
We went there, and I didn't spoil the rest of my camp, another 2 weeks didn't spoil, went to Germany, left the place on the night, in the fight. So now I'm just thinking about this, so I'm just thinking, just run.
Protected as well.
Just run away, don't fight, don't brawl, and it worked like a charm, you know, it actually worked like a bomb against this guy. Round 4, he jabbed me up, and he hit me with a straight right, square on this bone. Hit me so hard that I pissed in my pants in the ring. So I walked into the corner, the pistol running down my leg. I told him, listen, I was pissed in my pants. Are you okay? I'm like, yes, I'm okay. I rolled this open. But he said, I enjoy. And I enjoyed that fight because it was easy. It was an easy fight. And then they read the scoreboard. Now I'm hearing split decision. I'm like, okay, they gave a split decision. But I still won comfortably. And then I lost. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I just lost. You know, Eddie Hearn came up to me after that fight and told me, listen, you won this fight. Even another great in Germany, Louis Wegner or something like that, I don't know his name, came and said they robbed you. And after the fight I lost again. I'm like, now this time they robbed me second time.
But this is boxing stories, right? Were you surprised that he was a man of his word? Because he did say afterwards he'll do a rematch and he'll do it in South Africa, and that was respectable.
I take people for their word. You know, you can do South Africa afterwards.
Yeah.
But like in Germany, they had 3 German judges. When we fought in South Africa, we had a South African judge, a German judge, and I think some Australian, wherever he came from.
Yeah.
So true, I got complacent in that fight. I didn't train as hard. I believed I was going to beat him. I got
obviously a regret of yours.
Yes, I got flu also 2 weeks before the fight. Then I drank my medication wrong because I didn't read it properly, and my wife still told me, stupid. I'm not whatever. 10 rounds. It was a close fight. I think he beat me 6-4. One of the judges, and it's not public knowledge or anything, but you can go ask Colin. One of the judges, I think it was the German judges, had a 12-round scoring, but it was a 10-round fight. So it is what it is. I lost the majority decision. I do think I lost that fight, 6 rounds to 4, and it was my own fault. I got complacent. I trained hard because I always train hard, but just not hard enough.
Do you think he came better though as well? I mean, in saying that you didn't feel that you trained well, do you think that he came better?
You see in that fight, I wanted to, instead of run, because I had the first fight I ran away, I wanted to stand and trade with this, and I trained that I'm stronger and better than him. And I wasn't stronger than him. He was the stronger guy in the ring. Round 9, he moved for uppercut, he broke my eye socket here. You can feel it like this, it's broken, I'll show you a picture.
Yeah.
So, I had the bravado and everything to do this fight, but he was the stronger guy, and I fought the wrong fight and I lost. It shit happens.
Alright, and then what would be perceived as a comeback fight? Well, in retrospect, but at that time in South Africa, Patrick Mukala was undefeated, his name was coming up. He had a lot of punching power according to his boxing record. What did you make of that fight? Were you nervous?
After that, I fought for the SA title at Light Heavy, and then I fought the
That was actually the comeback fight.
Yes, but it wasn't a fight.
It was 2 rounds.
I jabbed it, I fell over, so it doesn't count. And then the Patrick fight, and they said Patrick, and I'm like, this guy's got 10 fights now, he wants to fight now. I think I had like 20 fights.
I think he had 9 knockouts though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't care about it. He knocked out nobody's. Guys like Renson, Abunyan, the people that mean nothing. So I'm like, let's roll. I'm not scared of you. Super middle. Okay, let's go back down to super middle. And I trained hard for that fight. I took all 5 weeks at work and I trained. I did 500 sit-ups a day. I remember speaking to Keith Russ. He's one of my boxing buddies. I told him I was like, and he said, Ryno, this guy can box. I'm like, really? He looks stupid. And I saw him fight against Paige Tasani. And it wasn't special. I think he won or a draw, whatever. And they said, no. This guy fights. You must be ready for this guy. He hits with both hands. He can box. And I'm like, you think so? I said, telling them, I believe you. But I trust a few people in boxing and he's one of them. So I trained this and I trained that. And I trained hard. And then the fight came. Yeah. I just overpowered Patrick. I just broke him down. Fought my fight and just overpowered.
Yeah, you did look quite a bit bigger in that fight.
Bigger, stronger. When I hit him with left hooks and I catch him and he goes like this and he buckled. I think he buckled 3 or 4 times and 5 times in 10 rounds. So he never hit me. He does hit hard both hands. He's quite clever, technical fighter, but nothing special.
And it's sort of a trend in your career. So you come back with a local win, big local win, and then you're going back overseas. Vincent Fagenboots, another bad decision that you got.
So, yeah, kept it at super middle, went to fight Vincent, knockout specialist. I think he had like 25 knockouts, 28 fights, whatever. I'm like, okay, let's fight this guy. I don't care. Good training camp, hard training camp. Alfonso Edison was one of my sparring partners, helped me a lot. Gert actually helped me also in that training camp because Colin went something or somewhere. Yeah, then the Fagenboots fight came and from round 1, it went my way. I was banging this out, going forward, boxing behind my jab, everything worked. I think it was round 4, we hit heads and the ref still said, headbutt. I'm like, okay, because now I could feel the blood running into my eye. And then he jagged me and then the ref went like this and I was like, okay. Then he checked my cut and he said it's deep. It's cut, it's nothing. It's a cut, I was cut up, this is nothing. Went to the corner, Colin said no, it's nothing, we'll sort it out. The following round, we started boxing, I buckled him again, he buckled again, then the ref stopped the fight, pulled the cut open, like this, he goes like this. And then he waves it all, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I just lost my knockout with TKO. He's a guy that I was blitzing from pillar to post and then I lost. I couldn't believe it. I was mauled.
Yeah, because he's one of the guys that I'd say was the easiest fight for you internationally. In fact, I think that's the easiest fight you had internationally.
By far. And I would have knocked him out. I was on my way to knock him out and this cut not happened. You know, I got 3 stitches. They made such a big story about it. Then we go to the hospital. The doctor that was on duty there was such a rope on weed that the whole place was full of rope. There's dead people lying in the morgue. There's more in the passage. This out stitching me up, but he's so rope, his eyes are red. I'm like, yeah, I'm in Germany.
And to look at that, I mean, I'm used to seeing your face bloodied up. I mean, the Scotland fights, him and you were both there. And then you got this little scratch down.
Yeah, and then they stopped it was heartbreaking, you know. That's why one of the fights that took a lot out of me because you get they rob you, okay, they rob you, but then they rob you blatantly like that, then it's a night. Yeah, it's a fuck.
And then you came back and it almost looked like you took your frustration out on Alfonso Edison and that fight was also like a one-way traffic fight. Looked actually at some point like you were looking at the ref or the judge someone and you were like, please stop this fight.
So I don't want that fight. When they phoned me, I said no, he's one of my friends. Then he phoned me and said, listen, please put pen to paper, I need the money, I want to fight. And I'm going to fight. I'm like, okay, let's fight. And me and Alfonso had a good sparring session, we sparring on fighting. And it proved in the ring, broke him. Unfortunately, it's one of the fights I regret the most. I should have done that.
I remember the way you guys were so chilled, you're smiling, you're laughing.
He's a proper friend of mine.
Yeah.
One of the few people I call actual friends. And then you had to fight him, and I could see that I'm hitting him and he's taking it, and it was a nightmare. I didn't enjoy it.
I didn't really, you were in Thai Korea, I never saw emotions from you, but we did a post-fight interview and you said you really didn't want to see Alfonso Tyson suffering, so that must have taken a lot in you as well.
So the biggest regret I have in boxing would be that fight.
Just taking it.
Yeah, man, he's my friend. I'm a big on loyalty. So you don't do that shit to your friends. It just doesn't feel right.
And moving on after the Alfonso Tyson fight, you had 2 fights against Nick Henning in Germany, another two controversial fights.
Yes, so Chad started trying me for the first Henning fight because Colin went with Lorata or something. So how it worked is Colin had already signed the fight with Lorata, and then the Henning fight came about. So then I asked him if he'd be okay with Chad training me, and he said yes. Because you can't train at 2 trainers and then another trainer takes you just as a work. Then we went to Germany. Like a place, treat you like kings. Yeah, the first Henning fight, I believe I won that fight. I think I won at least 8 rounds. Everybody came off to us after the fight and said, listen, you won this fight. Around 12, I hit so many punches, I couldn't breathe after the fight. And then the promoter stepped into the ring and he said, it's a draw. And I'm thinking, okay, draw? Fuck, it was not a loss, but I won.
Yeah.
And then, they called the scorecards. One judge gave it to me, another judge gave it to Annie, and the other judge gave it a draw. So it was a draw, then the rematch came. Again, Colin had another fight, I think, with Zinga, and I went back to Khan. And Colin went there for the fight as well.
Yeah.
So now I had Colin and Khan in my corner. You know, from Alfonso's fight, Khan was also there. So Colin's the guy in the ring, telling me what to do. Khan's the guy on the side, because I'm used to go with their voices, speaking combinations and whatnot. Then the second fight came. Round 5, it was going my way. Round 5, okay, no, the second fight. 3 weeks before the second fight, like a month, I had a planned holiday in the States with my family. We went to Disney World for 2 weeks. It was already paid for, so I started training camp, went to Disney World for 2 weeks, came back, I had 2 weeks training camp.
Did you train in Disney World?
I ran in Disney World,
okay.
But if you've never been there, you can't train there. So in the morning went for a jog, ran around the resort 2 or 3 times, did about 6 Ks. You can't train hard.
Okay.
Then the fight came. The fight went well. Then round 5, he hit me with a left hook. He hit me so hard that I saw my wife walking in the ring with a dog. I'll never smile. So I'm seeing her, the dog's leash is stiff, and she's walking in the ring. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? This is a boxing ring. And then he jabbed me and I woke up and I'm like, okay, we're still fighting. So it took everything I had to stay upright and stay awake and keep my composure. Then round 12 came, we were still fighting. I put him with a left hook, 1-2 left hook, and he buckled. And as he went back, I started throwing jab, over, and the ref said, stop, no deep behind the head, which was bullshit. Then he fell against the rope. Then I hit again, jab, right hand, and he fell against the rope again. Then the ref said, stop, and he started giving him a standing 8 count. You can't give a standing 8 count in a championship 12-round fight. And then ding, the bell went. So I lost that fight. While they scored it, I think it was 8 rounds before that they scored it, it was null. But I was used to it. But after that fight, you know, one of the big guys in the German boxing community came to me and he said, listen, came to my dressing room after the fight. He said, Ryno, they cheated. I'm sorry, but they cheated. And that's it. You know, I take nothing away from him. It was that goal. Both of them, I do believe I won.
Alright, and then from there, obviously, you had a mixed training camp, but you did again in the next fight against Alex Kabangu, which you came back and you fought at Alex O'Well show in Ramburg. Small hall show again, Blegari Center. So, Alex, I mean, you didn't look so good in that fight.
It wasn't the fight, you know, I paid for that fight. I had to pay Alex to fight me because it wasn't money. And I had a few bucks, I had a few international fights, and I wanted to fight, and I was Alan and he agreed. And I actually paid myself for that fight as well. It doesn't matter, I wanted to fight. You know, Alex is a very tricky guy to fight. One of the trickiest guys that he knows how to make you uncomfortable in the ring, hold, leave, hold, hit you low, up. It's a guy that's got a weird, uncomfortable fighting style. So it's hard to look. I didn't catch him, I think, around 6 or something. He went down. I thought he was dead. And then he stood up like the Undertaker and he finished the fight. So he's a much better opponent than his record states and indicates. Look, he's strong, physical, and he's fit. Now he's much better than what it looks like on paper. Oh yes, definitely. He was a much harder fight than the Patrick McCullough fight. Although Patrick is a better fighter of the two, I'm telling you now, people will struggle a lot more with Alex Kabangu than with Patrick.
Alright, and your last fight in South Africa, we know how it went. There was a lot of build up to this. Yes. There was you and Colin calling out Peter and Rowan, and it was a whole rivalry.
So Rowan came into the scene 2016 when I was preparing for Eric Scotland. I sparred him maybe 2 or 3 rounds, and then he started beating guys. He beat Renzo Nabonyani, then he beat Alex Kabangu, then he got a fight against Nicholas Radley, the light heavyweight champion. I sparred Nicholas a few times, very nice guy, was one of my friends. And Rowan broke him. I think the weight got to Nicholas. I think he made the wrong decision to pull so much weight. And when Rowan caught him, he just couldn't recover and he broke him. Then the Alex fight, Rowan fought at Patrick McCullough. I would have lost my house that day. In my life, I think 90% of people would have. Nobody gave Rowan 1% chance. If that maybe the Smiths, maybe they believed he could win, but they were forced to take that fight and they took it. And Rowan destroyed Patrick. I couldn't believe what I saw that night. I told Chantal, what the fuck is happening? And I'm not, what's going on here? So Rowan broke Patrick. And yeah, I called out Rowan, and then we were supposed to fight. Then he got an international world title shot, so I would have also done what he did and say, listen here, I'm going for a world title, I'm not going to fight you. And then COVID happened. And it took all of us out of boxing for a long time. I still went to Colin's house. I trained there at Colin's house with his son in the garage and his daughter, and we talked and I took them. So we never really stopped training. And then I started pulling out Rowan on social media. We made a big story about it, which was fun, man. It's fun in boxing to have some. Yes. And they eventually they accepted the fight, and then it was a fight. The new kid on the block, Ryan Campbell, knocking out everybody against the old war horse, Ryno Liebenberg. And I trained hard for this fight. Everything went well. We had good sparring, good training camp. Yes, and then the fight came. And I broke.
How much did you make of that before, I want to talk about the fight, but before I get to the actual fight, how much of the psychological warfare did you feel played a part?
I think I won everything. So as soon as you get personal as soon as there's now a war going on, as soon as you get personal, it means the other camp has got to you, because we're never personal. I like Rowan, he's a nice guy. We actually mates now, we talk now and then. So in boxing, if you want to chirp and say shit, do it, but never get personal. So as soon as you start getting personal, we know we've got you. And then when they started getting personal, we had them and we knew it. I think, Colin's quite clever with these things. He knows what to do. He's the mastermind behind everything. So. And it got to them, and we called it, it's no stories or personal or anything, but yeah, we got to them, then the fight came. He was in the best shape of his life. He was on weight the day of the fight already, drinking water before weighing. You can't do that, then you must fight at 72. You can't make weight that easy. It doesn't work. Under the light heavies, then you're fighting in the wrong division. And they were full of bravado. I know that feeling as well. And then the fight came. And then, I had a good game plan. I just didn't respect Rowan inside the boxing ring, and it worked like a job.
I should know quickly 2 questions about this one. That shot where you dropped him,
Yes.
was that one of the best shots you've ever hit? And the other one was, do you think the fight should have been stopped earlier?
So I would have stopped the fight in round 2 already, Rowan, because when I hit him and he fell, that overhand left, triple G shot, and
You've been working on that
yes,
one
for a long time, and it worked like a bomb. You know, I caught him, he didn't see it, and I hit him, bam, and he fell, and I'm like, okay, he stood up, he fell on his head again, and then he went to the corner, and he put his hands on the rope. So the rules face, if your hands are on the rope, that's how Boyd lost to you.
Right, and it was just a couple of months before that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to lose. But he recovered because he was fit. The round after that round, there was nothing left of Rowan. Honestly, in his punches, in his demeanor, who he was in the ring, there was nothing left. So that's why I feel they could have stopped the fight. But you know, it's a title fight. I believe in title fights. You should at least fall on your face a few times before they stop the fight. And the ref gave him the opportunity, but then his face started cutting up. You know, he couldn't see out of his one eye. So they could have stopped it earlier to save him the beating that he got, but it wouldn't have made a difference. I don't think, there's nothing wrong with him, he just couldn't see for a few days. I've been there as well, it's not so bad, it's a title fight, you know, he gave his life for this fight for 8 weeks, so at least give him the opportunity. There's always that one punch, and especially when you're a puncher, and that unfortunately counted against Rowan. He wasn't the puncher, so he could never hit that one punch that's going to break me. Yeah, so against the Smiths, I'm up a few fights, 2-0, both with knockouts, so it's good.
Alright, so you had your success there,
Oh, yes.
and that gave you the opportunity to go fight Fedor Chudinov, which was a hell of a fight. I didn't expect it to go the way it went, because he looked very strong.
So world title opportunity came, WBA gold, interim world, whatever you want to call it, was a title round, interim world title. On the contract it says interim world title. And I took it, I got it. It was kind of short notice. We had 4 weeks training camp and then a week of 5 weeks, so we had 5 weeks. But I just had the Rowan Campbell fight. I wasn't out of shape, the weight was good, and we took it. And I gave my life, 5 weeks of my life for it. Stopped drinking coke, sugar, everything. But COVID's here, so we went to Russia. They don't wear masks there. It's comfortable. It's outside. It was warm. Then Colin got COVID. It was an absolute nightmare. You can't explain to you. So when the first test came and Colin tested positive, I was like, okay, but I'm ready for this. I'm just going to put Neil and Paul in my corner. I'm going to fight this guy. Then Colin tested negative again. I'm like, okay, Colin's there. Because Vuzi had to train somebody here this side, so they didn't go with. So Neil and Paul pay for themselves, so they go with. They only pay for 2 tickets, myself and Colin. So then some of my other chubbies came with as well. Yeah, so then Colin tested negative and you felt relief, okay, he's going to be there. And then he tested positive again. So now he's not going to be there. Now I'm telling these people, you give water, you do this, because now I'm the only guy that actually knows what to do.
Yeah.
Because they've all been part of camp, but they've never been in the corner. Now they're not in the corner in a 4-round fight. It's a 12-round world title fight against a proper fighter. And it played on my mind. I didn't sleep the last night. I went to weigh in. It was so democrat. Weirdest weighing. You weigh there, they just check it, and then 7 o'clock in the morning. It was bad. It was a complete disaster the way. Just because the people, they don't speak our language.
Yeah.
And they don't explain it. And Colin wasn't there. And I'm getting frustrated. I'm flicking my crew. He'll do this. Paul do this. It's small. We did the weigh-in, ate lacquer, everything. So they bought buckets and towels, and my other friend Emil, he's a pharmacist, he was there. So we've got our crew ready, they're all geared up, we're going to go. So I'm telling Paul down, he knows because he was a paramedic, he's going to do the cuts.
Yeah.
So Emil's in the corner, he's got, I think he got his hand on speed dial because he didn't have Colin's, I don't know, Colin's phone wasn't on or whatever the story was. So now we're there, So we're in the dressing room. Now I've got nobody to take my hand. So I googled videos on how to take your hands, but this is a pro fight. So you can't. So they sent some monkey nut guy there. He's going to take my hand. I said, you know, yes, Colin's bad or professional. He wrapped my hand so cocked. It was so tight. I had blisters on the inside of both of my hands for probably 2 weeks afterwards. But it's done. Hands are wrapped. Okay, now we have to put on the gloves. So when you put on gloves and you're used to doing it, they clip off the end, they tighten it, make it tight. The laces can't go on the glove, it's on the cuff, then they tape it, the entire cuff must be closed. So nobody knows this except me. So now I'm trying to explain to my crew, listen here, this is how you must do it. They've got an official there. In Russia, you're not, normally we send somebody to go and watch their hand wraps, they send somebody. No, that's like, they send an official. This guy's a Russian official, he's going to check, and they've got a Russian official there. So you're not allowed to go, which is funny, but yeah.
Okay.
Then to get the gloves, scarf gloves, in any case, we hands up. So now it's a big story to get the gloves on, tape it up, the guys complaining, this is a dry ball, I'm flipping, listen here like that. Okay, now it's time to fight. We warm up, Paul's taking me on the pads, we're not in, this is not your trainer, but he's one of my friends, I've done pads with him until I feel I'm warm. Into the big stage, lots of people, then the fight starts. It was all. This oak never stopped coming. It was a concrete brick. What me and Colin discussed and planned in the dressing room, well, before up and leading up to the fight, just didn't work. It didn't work. And now I'm thinking in my head, Colin says, hits 2 punches. I'm getting bam, bam. It wasn't enough, because every time I hit 2, this oak's getting 4 and 5. Oh, and it was the weirdest feeling. Now I go to the corner, now I have to tell them, water, ice. You have to tell your corner what to give you, where put ice on my neck, put a towel, rub me here. Then they're trying to take my gown out, rinse it, then I have to tell them, think, okay, get my gown back.
Yeah.
So now you have to think about being normally relaxed and just breathe. So it made it immensely hard in the ring. So round 7, I was so frustrated. There's a word in Afrikaans called moedeloos. I wanted to quit. So I went back to the corner and then I told them, listen, I'm done. I fucking don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how this is not stopping. I'm gonna quit. I'm fucking done. And then my team, they came together and they said, listen, you're not done. You're gonna roll this guy. And then they gave me the motivation that I actually needed. And then I had a good round 8, stayed away a little bit, and round 9, he clipped me with a left hook. It wasn't a hard punch, but it clipped me. You feel it, and I fell, and I went down, and I got up, and I'm like, this isn't so bad. There's 3 rounds left, and there my team's, there's 3 rounds left, and it's all bravado in the corner. And then I wrote the last 3, round 12, he never stopped coming. He wanted to kill me that night.
He was strong.
The hardest, strongest fighter out of all the guys that I've ever fought. He's on another level. Had Colin been there, I think it would have been a different fight.
You would have adjusted your game plans. And
I do believe so. Would I have won? I don't know. Maybe I don't think so, but it would have been a much closer fight because there was opening and stuff that he sees. So honestly, I missed him in that fight. You can't tell people how you missed your trainer until they take him away right before you're supposed to fight. It's a nightmare. Okay, that's the conclusion of my boxing career. That's small.
that's your boxing career.
Yes.
So Ryno, I mean, anything you want to say lastly to everyone that followed your career? I know that you got a lot of fans, particularly in the West End.
You know, I think I've got a lot of fans because I'm a true person. I am who I am. It's better to give advice to boxers. You know, have a personality, be somebody, be special, stop being ordinary. We've got so many great fighters, but they're so ordinary, it sucks. Nobody wants to listen to what they have to say or see what they have to say because they're boring. You know, you have to sell yourself, and if you can't sell yourself, go do something else.
So that's your advice for the younger fighters?
For younger fighters, you know, sell yourself. Speak to promoters, speak to trainers. Because boxing is a very hard sport. It takes absolutely everything all the time of your life. And you need to sell yourself and earn money. I tell every fighter that I ever see, listen here, Just remember, the most important thing in boxing is knockout sells. People want to see people knocking people out, not 12 rounds. They don't want to see 12 round fights, unless you're a purist.
Yeah.
They want to see the blood symbol and he falls there and it's all blood and guts. That's what people want to see. So I want to thank my wife. You know, she's been there with 11 years of all my shit, dieting, training, not doing, being able to do. So she's been there. She's been my rock on the side from start to finish. My brother-in-law, Neil, his wife, my family. You can't do this sport alone. You need a support structure, and they've supported me immensely. I've had some of the best sponsors people can ask for in boxing. Universal Paints has been there for 10 years. At the end of my boxing career, I had great people sponsor me. There's a lot of them to mention, but people like SDC, Secatal Technologies, Empire Cable, you know, Local Choice Range Team. There are so many, I can't think of all of them because I had so many sponsors for my last fight. I almost had my purse money in sponsorship. You know? Another thing is, I want to ask people, my fight with Ryno, I gave a lot of money back to the community. So help children, help people in need, especially children, because they're the future of this country. And if you can help one kid, just one, it means everything that you've did means something. So I've got lots of people that are help feeding programs in schools. If you've got money and you're able to do it, especially fighters, start helping people. It will come back to you. Other than that, thanks a lot for everybody. People like you, Aiden, you put us on the map. You showcase who we are and what we do. Colin Nathan, fuck, I can't say enough. And Gert Strijdom, those are the people, you know, Golden Gloves. There are too many. I just want to thank everybody. I love you. I'm not done with boxing yet. I've got a prize coming next year. So we'll see how that goes.
So it's not the last interview?
Excuse me?
It's not our last interview then?
No, definitely not.
Alright, thank you so much, Ryno, for coming on board and sharing your career and your retirement. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Once, ready to roll.